Hi, I'm Lorne Epstein with the Lorne Epstein Show, all the way in Paris, France. We are sitting in front of the Louvre pyramid. The pyramid was designed by I.M. Pei, who's a pretty brilliant architect. And we are going to be talking about the Bersin model of talent acquisition. So if you're tuning in and you're not into talent acquisition, you're not going to enjoy this at all. So with me today is Johnny Campbell. Johnny is the co-founder and CEO of Social Talent. And Social Talent provides companies with online training. They've got about 200 different trainings for recruiters on how to make them great recruiters around diversity and inclusion and how to source and all those great things. So you should check out Social Talent. And a shout out to our sponsors. So I want to say thank you to Smart Recruiters. Go check out smartrecruiters.com and the Talent Board. So if you've never heard of the Candy Awards, the Candidate Experience Awards, go check that out at talentboard.org. It's a great way for your company to get a sense, get free feedback on how they're doing in recruiting. And then, of course, Bersin Technologies in my hometown of Arlington, Virginia. And I think that's it. Oh, and Unleash. Go Unleash. Woohoo! So, Johnny, so we were talking about the Bersin model of talent acquisition.
Bonjour, Lorne.
Bonjour.
We're here in Paris, here with you at the Louvre.
Yes.
So
Irish accent.
Irish
Just
accent,
for those
yeah.
you don't know.
It changes sometimes as we talk, right? The more I talk to an American, it might merge into an American accent, so bear with me.
It's so good to see you here.
It's great to see you, right? And what a great location. So, yeah, we're here at Unleash, right? And I've been talking to you recently about maturity when it comes to TA. You know, I was in Madrid recently with a customer, and they were telling me how they follow the Bersin TA maturity model. It's like, all right, tell me, what does that mean? He goes, well, we're at level 3, we're trying to get to level 4, so we're doing X and Y and Z. And I took back out, because Josh wrote this like 5-6 years ago when Deloitte just bought the business, and he built this framework of 4 stages of maturity for TA. A lot of organizations still use this framework to talk about. It's a good framework on how you would mature as an organization. But it got me thinking recently. I got thinking about, well, first of all, why the heck should we mature, right? So before you start rushing into it, we only get 3 to 4. It's like, oh, why?
What's the value?
Why should you bother, right? And then I found, when talking to lots of other customers, there are some fundamental flaws in the overall logic of the model. It just doesn't necessarily hold 5-6 years later. So the other 2 things I want to talk about.
Okay, so what's the model?
So basically, Josh had proposed, you know, you're moving from immature being, I'll keep it really basic. Recruiting is done by HR folk. You don't really want to do recruiting. They're probably based in their local business or opco, working for the HR director or...
So not a lot of sourcing, mostly posting and waiting for
work with some staffing agencies, helping me out, finding some people, blah, 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 right? So that's the immature
recruiting
kind of level
basics.
1. Yeah. Really recruiting basics. Post and pray, all that kind of stuff, right? All the way up to, we've got dedicated global TA. We work for TA, not for HR locally. We're professional recruiters. In fact, we're not even recruiters, we're sourcers, we're talent acquisition partners, we're blah, 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 global employer brand, we're all these fancy technologies, all this kind of stuff, right? So all that kind of, and everything in between. And if you look at the kind of why, first of all, right? We would not do this if we weren't in a market where, or markets where there's just no talent, right? You look at the growth of that maturity model and its implementation in companies. Nobody gave a crap when there was lots of people. When we, in Ireland, 15-16% unemployment, in the States 10-12% unemployment, across Europe between 15-20% unemployment, people didn't have to worry about it because if you imagine, right, so you like coffee going, yeah? What's your coffee of choice?
Oh, anything that's coffee.
I think it's coffee, right?
That's my coffee of choice.
Right, so you've got a coffee of choice. You're in a small town in France and there's one coffee store and that's it for 50 miles. Does the coffee have to be any good?
No.
Does the service have to be any good?
No.
Do you have to have an app that you can order your coffee with before you arrive in the store?
No.
Do you have to have a barista who can basically tell you there's great music playing and sell you other stuff?
Absolutely not.
Because it's the only coffee store in town, yeah? So you can imagine 20 other coffee stores rock up. Starbucks opens up, Cafe Sol, you've got all these different European and US brands. All of a sudden you have 20 coffee stores in town. Some of them are 24 hours, they've got apps. Let's go back to your original coffee store. Does the coffee store need good coffee? Yeah.
Definitely.
Do they need an app?
Yeah, I think it has to be coffee that meets all of my needs.
Do you need a good service?
I think so.
Free Wi-Fi?
No.
Place you to do your work?
Maybe.
Third place, all this kind of fancy crap?
Yeah, third place, yes.
So we only started worrying about TA maturity when we ran out of people, right? I did a recent search. I'm a massive, passionate advocate of inclusion efforts and everything else. I believe in the real, genuine value of it. But if you look at the growth of diversity inclusion, do a Google trend search of the phrase diversity inclusion in the US, and it has a perfectly inverse correlation with the unemployment rate. People only started talking about it and caring about it. When I say people, I mean organizations, right? Good people cared all the time. When you look at the inverse correlation between unemployment rates and diversity inclusion on a corporate level, it's they ran out of people.
Right.
We ran out of white males to hire, right?
Right.
So people started going, who else is there? And all of a sudden you started working on diversity inclusion efforts, right? At the same time, we better fix recruiting. Why? Because we can't get all the people we want.
Right.
If you had a massive recession tomorrow, you'd see all this reversed. We wouldn't talk about maturity, unfortunately wouldn't talk about diversity inclusion much, because people will go, there's loads of people, right? So this is an opportunity to really fix recruiting and fix things like inclusion and work up the model. Just like you wouldn't have good coffee stores if there wasn't competition, right? It's a good thing. But when you look at the top of the Bersin model, one of the challenges is that it talks about partnership and how you need to think more broadly and partner with the organization. But the definition of maturity throughout the Bersin model is restricted to talent acquisition, to TA, to the recruiters. And that doesn't really work because hiring, right? The exercise of hiring is a much broader thing in the business.
Yeah, I've always told, like when I was doing TA, that recruiting is a team sport.
It's a team sport, right?
I mean, I can't hire someone as a recruiter. I need the manager, I need the finance people, I need a whole lot of people involved.
That's why I don't say recruiting is a team sport, I say hiring is a team sport.
Right.
When you talk about it and call it recruiting, people think, well, that's the recruiters, right? Hiring, you give them a different abstract word, and they get it. Okay, hiring is what we all do, recruiting is what they do.
Right.
And the TA maturity model is about what they do.
Yeah.
Hiring is about what we do. And to me, you have to when you're kind of somewhere, maybe at 3 or 4 in the Bersin model, right? I'm not to pick up Bersin model, it's a great model, there's many more like it. If you only think about TA maturity, I think you're being blind.
You know, Josh has to pants every time you say Bersin.
He does, right? So that's okay. We'll get him later. We're getting a few drinks later on, right? He's on tomorrow. But you've got to think about the wider maturity model of hiring in an organization, right? So if you're going to basically make hiring great, then the TA folk have to be fantastic, but so do the other parties, the HR folk, finance people, hiring managers have to be great at this as well. Or at least not shit, okay? Which is really important. So when you start broadening this out, it becomes more complicated because TAs start realizing we don't control those people. They don't work for us. We can't tell them what to do. We can't make them do training. We can't make them align to our processes. And it becomes more difficult, right? And you need the organization behind it. And you know what? Some great companies have done this really well. You look at organizations like IBM recently did this. They've rolled out this kind of maturity model around how to do hiring well across 80,000 hiring managers in their business, beyond just their TA team. A really mature approach to it. But as you start to solve that, right, you start realizing we're enlightened. We've moved beyond the TA maturity to hiring maturity. You start going, hang on a second, as you evolve, right, you start getting hiring nailed, right? Well, what's the next challenge after you nail hiring as an organization? What's the next challenge for those people involved in the hiring process? Do you think?
Keeping them.
Keeping them.
Yeah.
Getting the most out of them. Yeah. Onboarding them, right? I heard of we were at Talent Connect a couple weeks ago in Dallas, and there was a friend of mine from a big tech company, won't mention their name. They've gone through this process of enabling the hiring managers in their business to be aligned with TAs so they can do hiring in this organization better. And one of the hiring managers came up to him and said, "It's so good you guys do this hiring manager training. It's so awesome. I can't wait until you teach me how to manage people." and that's the thing. It's like a lot of people, let's say tech or high growth biotech companies, these companies have a lot of new managers. They've never managed before, right? And the first thing is get a team. Like, I need to build a team. Go hire me some people. When you've got them, how do I get them to work as a team in this modern world where we're all working in projects and everything else? You start saying, hang on a second, hiring is, if I just think about hiring, I'm blinkered to the fact that I need to look at my talent for just the list of things. So to me, it's kind of looking at this they call it TA maturity, hiring maturity, talent maturity. And you don't move sequentially from one to the other, right? As you begin to solve one, you start to blur into the next. As you begin to solve that, you start blurring into the next. And you know what? At any one moment, you might be at level 3 in talent maturity, still at level 2 in TA maturity in some things, while you're at level 1 in hiring maturity.
Right.
Like,
I mean, it really is a circle. It's an ecosystem.
It is an
because
ecosystem.
even the things don't just stand there. There's other things that can bring them together. And
more dependencies, more people included. But I guess when you look at what we're doing here at Lorne, right? You've got this broad spectrum of vendors and folks who work in different streams. You've got people going to different things. But at the end of the day, we're all working the same thing, right? You've got a bunch of people in an organization, and they've got to get stuff done. And you've got to make them happy in an environment where if you don't make them happy, they can go anywhere else. And they're going to do that. They're going to walk with their feet. So You talk about employee experience, you talk about how to do TA well, hiring practices. It's all the same thing.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I mean, I think if you're watching this and you're a recruiter or an HR manager and you haven't thought about your talent acquisition in terms of the whole company, right? Holistically, how do people get onboarded, and how does that onboarding affect their productivity, right? What do they say about a person's first day?
So it's one of those important events you'll ever have.
Yeah.
It's a day of transition. You look at organizations like John Deere, right? You know John Deere.
Yeah.
Of course you know John Deere. In the US, everyone knows John Deere. Europe, most people know it. Same color as us. Asia, not so much. Not so much. 3 years ago, they were trying to basically fix this massive turnover problem in their first 6 months. And they said that the thing that they reckoned was going to be a winner for them was to focus on the first day hiring experience. So you look that up, right? The Heath brothers, Chip and Dan, wrote about this in their book, Power of Moments. They focused on this transition moment of the first day and how they realized getting everything right was just unachievable, right? You look at the entire employee experience, it's hard to get right. But let's make some of the moments brilliant, and first day being a really important moment. If you get a first day right for a new employee, you've got loyalty that will get you through a lot of hard days if you do those things right.
Yeah, I've had a couple places where when I started the first day, it was like, okay, go to your desk, and it was kind of dirty. And
Who are you?
Like,
where do you work?
Yeah, right.
You ever see these people who arrive at reception?
Oh my God, I hired a guy, and I can say this, he's not around anymore. Well, I won't. But a big company in America, hired the guy. He's at his desk. 3 days later, I go up to see how he's doing, and he's been sitting at his desk for 3 days. Nobody even said anything to him. Nothing. His hiring manager never came over. Nothing.
Jeez.
Yeah.
But this is a problem when you don't join up, right?
Yeah. So we got to wrap up.
No, I'm gonna ask. I'm gonna leave you one question again, right? And maybe ask your viewers as well, right? I started asking lately companies, do you do a hiring plan? Right? Half of them go, yeah, we do a hiring plan. Start of the year. I go, do you do a talent plan? They look at you funny. Go, what's the difference? I go, well, a talent plan is saying these are all the skills we need in our organization, right? And to me, a talent plan is everyone in talent gets together and goes, right, how do we solve this need for skills? And you got people from L&D, you got people from talent development, internal mobility, D&I, and TA. And you go, you know what? Let's train some people. Let's move some people around. Let's give some people some opportunities where they can be more included. And let's hire a few external people. And let's kind of get our heads together and solve this. Nobody does it, right? They go, well, I'm going to hire this team. I'm going to do a year's training plan in advance because we just want to tick some boxes. Nobody joins them, right? And I think if I'd love to see something come out of Unleash, it's more thinking that joins up all of those things.
Right.
I think that's where we're going, and the point of the maturity is to go, it isn't one problem, it isn't a TA problem, it isn't a TD problem or an LD problem, it's just a talent problem.
Yeah, it's a business problem. So one of the things that Peter said was that if the leadership is not on board, it ain't gonna happen.
It ain't gonna happen.
It ain't gonna happen. So if you're a leader in the business, you gotta make it happen. How can folks reach you?
Online, search Johnny Campbell, search social talent, you'll find it.
Johnny, and you're going to be speaking at Unleash.
I'm speaking tomorrow morning, talking about maturity and running a hiring excellence stage over 2 days in the main expo hall. So come to it.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Cheers, guys.
You've been listening to Lorne Epstein Show. I'm your host, Lorne Epstein, and like, share, comment, and subscribe. There. Like, share, comment, subscribe in buttons that are somewhere.
Right. Au revoir.
Au revoir.